Welcome to the latest librarian for the D-Lev digital theremin. This new librarian is kind of pared down. It's not as elaborate as the old librarian. It's not interactive. It's just a command line, kind of one function at a time kind of thing. And I think it's a little cleaner and a little easier to use probably. So to install it, you take all the zip files, unzip them, and stick them in a directory that's convenient for you. I've put them on my desktop in a directory called D-Lev, but you can call it whatever you want. And I'm going to take a look at the files here. I'm in Linux, so I use the ls command. So these are the files that are in the directory that I created and dumped the files into. We have the usual all directory that has all of our presets in it. We have a bunch of Go files, which are the source for the librarian. We have a configuration file that holds the port number, so we don't have to specify the port every time we run it. There are 4 executables here, depending on the PC that you're on. If you're on a Linux machine, you would run d-lin. If you're on a Windows machine, you would run d-win. If you're on an Intel Mac, you would run d-mac. If you're on a M1 or M2 Mac, you could try the d-mm1. This is the only one that's untested so far. And there are some help files, text files here at the end that you could refer to if you're running any HCL commands, or if you're curious about the knobs or the internal registers to Hive. Alright, so let's run it. For Linux, I have to precede it with a /. On Windows, you don't have to do this. Right, so what we get here is an abbreviated help screen. So it's kind of a quick little way to refresh your memory if you've forgotten what the commands are. So here we see the version up here, version 2. Here's the usage. You do D whatever, depending on your operating system, followed by a command, and possibly followed by flags or options, or flags with options. So down here we list the various commands and flags. So if you need help with a particular command's flags, you can do the command and then the -h here flag, and that'll help you. Let me show that to you. Like say we want help on view. So we'd say, I'm going to use the up arrow here to recall the D-Lin, and the command would be view, and we want help on it. And what that tells us is the -f flag is followed by the file name that we want to view, or we can do -k just to view the knobs, or if we want to see the profile knobs or file or slot, we'd use the -pro, not knobs, just file or slot flag. And if we're viewing a slot, we need to give it a slot number. So you can kind of see the kind of more of a breakdown for the flags of particular commands. So we have a help command. Let me show that too. Right, here we have the abbreviated help that we just saw here earlier. We have some notes on usage, and we have some typical examples. I like typical examples. They're just kind of easier to go to an example and figure it out. Okay. We have a ports command, and with this we can view the open ports, and we can set the active port. Let me show that to you. So if we don't specify a port, we just get a list. So we can see that here's the available serial ports, and this is my D-Lev plugged into my computer, and it's on port 1. So if we say we want to change that to 0, we can call the ports command and set it to 0. And you can see here that it's telling us that it set the port to 0. But that's the wrong port, so we'll set it to 1. So once you set this, it's stored in the config file, and you don't have to mess with it unless your port changes for some reason. Alright, we have a slots command that lists, it matches up the slots that are in your D-Lev currently, and it matches them up to DLP files that are in a given directory. We have 3 different view commands. We can view the current knob settings, we can view a certain slot on the D-Lev, or we can view a DLP file. And these all show you like all the D-Lev screens all at once kind of thing. Right, we have a K to F command and an F to K command. Now the knobs are kind of ephemeral. They when you change a preset, all the knob values change. So, but say you're editing a preset and you like the way it is, but you don't want to save it to a slot. You just want kind of an intermediate, I don't know, something like that, thing to hold on to in a file. You would use the K to F command. And if you wanted to maybe try out a preset but you didn't want to store it to a slot, you could use the F to K command to just transfer it to the knobs. So that's what you'd kind of use for maybe during preset evaluation and preset creation. So we have the S to F and F to S commands, so we can upload and download DLP files, preset files, and profile files to individual slots with these commands. So you can micromanage your presets that way. We can do more of bulk preset management and profile management using bank files, using the B to S and S to B commands. So if we want to upload all like a group of presets, we would put their preset file names in a file, in a text file, and then we would use the B to S command. Or if we want a file, a text file that contains the various DLP file names in it, we would use the S to B command. So typically you'd use the S to B, and then you would edit it, and then you'd use the B to S. So you'd be more of a managing groups, or maybe your entire profile set, or preset and profile sets this way. This is the way I pump up D-Levs here in the factory. Okay, and then we have more bulk commands here. We have the dump and pump. So we can dump the entire state of our D-Lev, and this is like a safe thing to do right before you do any editing, or really, since you're messing with kind of what's going on, you might want to dump the EEPROM. It's pretty quick, and you can always go back to exactly the way everything was by then pumping it back up with that file. You can dump your software, you can dump your presets, you can dump all of your presets, or you can dump all of your profiles. And conversely, you can pump up the entire D-Lev with the EEPROM file. You can pump up just your software. You can pump up just your presets. And this is new, the functionality here is new and safer than the old librarian. When you upload a pre-file for all of your presets, to overwrite all of your presets, it won't overwrite your profiles. So the old librarian would, and that was kind of dangerous. Or you can just upload, bulk upload all of your profile files. And then we have an HCL command. This is the Hive command language command. So we can do things like check version, CRC, do an autocal. We can read registers, knobs, things like that. You might use the version just to kind of check the current version on your D-Lev. And you might use the CRC to make sure that the CRC is correct, though the CRC is checked every time the D-Lev is started up, every time it's booted. Alright, now one more thing. Anytime a file might be overwritten on your hard drive, you will be warned. So it's fairly safe that way too. You'll have to give it the okay to overwrite a file, and if indeed that's going to happen. Alright, let's move on to more detail in the next videos.